Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. The Oklahoma City Thunder are on the other side, and De'Aaron Fox is sidelined with an ankle injury. So the Spurs turn to their rookie, Kastart. And not just any rookie. This is a kid who logged just 22 minutes a night during the regular season, the second overall pick who spent his entire rookie year quietly coming off the bench, while the rest of his draft class grabbed the headlines elsewhere. Dylan Harper checks into the game, 20 years old, 47 minutes played, double overtime, 24 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 7 steals, a new single-game franchise playoff record for a franchise whose history includes names like Tim Duncan, David Robinson, and Kawhi Leonard. The Spurs come away with the win, and somewhere back in San Antonio, a Hall of Famer who once built his own legacy off the bench is watching all of this unfold without a shred of surprise, because Manu Ginobili had already told us who Dylan Harper was, not through some flashy press conference or a bold prediction that went viral online. He told us the way the Spurs organization has always told you things, quietly, day after day, in a gym where the real work happens long before anyone's paying attention. While the rest of the basketball world was busy debating whether Harper even fit the situation he'd landed in, Ginobili was showing up to that facility every single day, teaching him exactly how to make the moment his own. Nobody was paying attention then. Everybody is now. To really understand what Ginobili saw in this kid, you first need to understand why so many people believed San Antonio had made a mistake drafting him in the first place. Going into the 2025 NBA draft, the top of the board was widely agreed upon. Cooper Flagg was the unanimous #1 pick, no debate there. Harper was the consensus #2, 6'5", left-handed, a big lead guard out of Rutgers who put up 19.4 points, 4.6 rebounds, and 4 assists a game as a true freshman. One and done, and he did it all. His feel for the game was elite. His combination of size and length at the point guard spot was genuinely rare. His finishing ability at the rim with either hand stood out immediately. On paper, this was a franchise cornerstone type of prospect. The concern wasn't Harper's talent, it was where he was walking into. San Antonio already had De'Aaron Fox, a max contract all-star point guard they'd acquired at the trade deadline and extended shortly before the draft. They had Stephen Castle entering his second season after already earning all-rookie first-team honors, with people drawing comparisons to Drew Holiday. And they had Victor Wembanyama as the franchise's foundational piece, a 21-year-old, one-of-one talent who needed playmakers feeding him, not another ball-dominant creator competing for touches. 3 lead guards, 1 basketball. So the reaction was immediate. Some analysts felt San Antonio should have gone in a different direction entirely. A wing, a big man, someone who slotted more naturally alongside the pieces already in place. Others zeroed in on Harper's shooting as the real flag out of college, just 33% from 3 at Rutgers, a number that suggested inconsistency and raised real doubts about his ability to space the floor at the NBA level. Even the more favorable takes came with hesitation. Nobody denied his talent, but would it go to waste in this situation? Would coming off the bench behind 2 established starters actually stunt his growth? Would he even see meaningful playing time? And once training camp opened and it became clear the Spurs were in fact bringing Harper along off the bench, the doubts only got louder. What nobody outside the organization could see was what was quietly unfolding in the daily sessions between a 19-year-old rookie and a 48-year-old Hall of Famer. Here's something worth understanding about Manu Ginobili before we go further. He was a 57th overall pick. He spent 3 years playing in Italy before the Spurs even trusted him enough to bring him stateside. Once he arrived, Greg Popovich handed him a bench role and told him to make it his own, not because he lacked the talent to start. Everyone in that building knew he could have, but because the franchise needed something rarer, something harder to find. They needed him to be the best bench player in basketball night after night for over a decade. He won 6th Man of the Year in 2008, and he embraced that role fully, because he understood something a lot of players never grasp. Your value to a team isn't determined by where you fall in the rotation, it's determined by what you do once you're actually on the floor. When Ginobili returned to the Spurs organization in 2021 as a special advisor, the team described his responsibilities as player-centric development, helping young guys grow on the court and off it. So, by the time Dylan Harper arrived in the summer of 2025, Manu was already prepared for exactly this. Harper has told reporters that Ginobili is the person he's talked to the most since joining the organization, every single day, asking him the kinds of questions you'd expect a 19-year-old to ask someone who had once walked the exact path he was now being asked to walk. How do you adjust to the speed of the NBA coming from overseas? What changed the most once you turned pro? What kept you locked in mentally? But the most valuable conversations between them weren't really about the broad strokes of becoming an NBA player at all.
Their most valuable exchanges were far more specific and technical. Lefty scorer talking shop with lefty scorer. Harper's recalled Ginobili telling him that if you're left-handed, you need to study every left-handed player who's ever come through this league, every angle they use to finish, every floater variation, every version of the Euro step, because defenders are conditioned to guard right-handers, and that left hand becomes a genuine weapon, but only once you truly understand how to wield it. Then there was the mental side of things, the part Harper kept circling back to whenever reporters brought up his relationship with Ginobili. What stuck with him most, he said, was the mindset. It's always about the next game. If you have a rough outing, the moment you step out of the shower, your focus shifts forward. Simple, direct. Not some line pulled from a self-help book, but something forged by a man who logged 1,057 regular season NBA games and learned it the hard way himself, then passed it down to a young player still learning how to navigate an ordinary Monday night in Oklahoma City. And when Ginobili watched Harper fully lean into that sixth-man role, not reluctantly, not like someone accepting a step down, but with genuine buy-in, he said so publicly. He was genuinely thrilled. Looking back, that reaction was the tell, and almost nobody picked up on it at the time. Let's be honest about how Dylan Harper's rookie season actually looked from the outside. The Spurs as a team were excellent. Wembanyama was operating on another level. Castle kept improving. Fox provided steady leadership. The team was winning, but the conversation surrounding Harper specifically kept circling back to what he wasn't doing, rather than what he was contributing. He finished the season averaging 11.8 points and 3.9 assists across 22.6 minutes a night. For most players drafted second overall in league history, that kind of stat line would set off alarm bells. Meanwhile, other rookies from that same 2025 class were racking up bigger minutes and louder moments. Con Canupel was lighting it up from deep in Charlotte. VJ Edgecombe was making Sports Center caliber plays in Philadelphia. Cooper Flagg was already being treated as a franchise centerpiece in Dallas from day one. And Harper? He was coming off the bench in San Antonio, quietly producing efficient numbers that didn't fully show up in the box score. The criticism poured in from every direction. Here was a guy taken second overall, playing fewer minutes than you'd expect from a contender's sixth man. Reporters started questioning whether the fit actually made sense, whether San Antonio had misjudged the situation entirely, whether a crowded backcourt was stunting Harper's growth by not giving him enough room to develop. His father, Ron Harper, watched it all unfold from the sidelines, staying mostly quiet in public. But he understood something that critics didn't, because while the surface-level stats read 11.8 points in 22 minutes, the advanced metrics painted an entirely different picture. Every time Harper stepped on the floor, his team performed better with him out there. His feel for the game, the patience built into his handle, the way he moved without the ball to find openings before they even fully formed, it all echoed a certain lefty from Argentina who'd also once looked unremarkable in his early box scores. And through all of the criticism, Harper never complained, never pushed for more playing time, never had his camp send signals that he wanted a bigger role. He just kept stepping out of that shower and refocusing on the next game. That's not typical behavior for a 19-year-old. That's something passed down from somebody who'd walked that exact road before him. Then the playoffs hit, and everything shifted. It happened gradually at first. His minutes started creeping up in big moments, and there was a visible ease to how he carried himself out there, almost like he'd been holding something back all season, waiting for the right time to unleash it. Through the first round alone, the Spurs outscored their opponents by 73 points whenever Harper was on the floor. 73 points from a guy coming off the bench. Then came Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals against Oklahoma City. De'Aaron Fox went down with a turned ankle, ruled out. Suddenly, Harper wasn't just logging minutes, he was starting in the Western Conference Finals against the defending champions in a game that stretched into double overtime. He put up 24 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, and 7 steals in double overtime as a rookie who'd been averaging 22 minutes for the better part of 8 months. Those 7 steals set a new single-game franchise playoff record for San Antonio. He also became the first rookie since Magic Johnson back in 1980 to record at least 20 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 steals in a single playoff game. The Spurs went on to close out the series in 7 games, with Harper contributing 18 points and 6 rebounds in the clincher. San Antonio was headed to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2014.
And throughout those playoffs, Harper stood as the team's second leading scorer overall, trailing only Victor Wembanyama, despite coming off the bench the entire time. At just 20 years old, in a rookie season where he'd averaged only 22 minutes a night, he set a new Spurs franchise record for most points scored in a single postseason run, surpassing a mark previously held by David Robinson. He became the first rookie out of the Western Conference since Magic Johnson back in 1980 to reach at least 250 points and 100 rebounds across a single playoff run. At that point, the Ginobili comparisons weren't just talk among fans anymore. Harper was actively living up to them in real time. San Antonio ultimately fell to the New York Knicks in the 2026 Finals, 4-1. But that's not where this story ends. Really, it's barely where it starts. Across the finals, Harper averaged 18 points, 6.4 rebounds, and 3 assists per game, all off the bench as a 20-year-old rookie. In the elimination facing Game 5, with the series slipping away, he delivered 25 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists across 31 minutes, a fitting closing chapter to an extraordinary debut season. He finished as the leading scorer among all bench players throughout the entire postseason. Every single game he came off the bench. Not once did he ask for a different role. And that's the part of this story that tends to get buried underneath all the draft position talk, the minutes debates, the fit questions. The real story isn't found in the box score. It's in what Manu Ginobili passed down to Dylan Harper before he'd even played a single regular season minute. Think about what Ginobili's own career demanded of him. He arrived in San Antonio at 25 years old and immediately came off the bench for a roster that already had Tim Duncan and Tony Parker. He averaged just 7.6 points as a rookie. He accepted that role, mastered it completely, and then spent the next 16 years making himself indispensable, not by demanding touches, but by elevating everything and everyone around him every time he stepped on the floor. Ginobili went 57th in his draft. Harper went 2nd overall. On paper, the circumstances couldn't look more different. But what Ginobili recognized in Harper the moment he walked into that building had nothing to do with draft slot. He saw a young player who could genuinely buy into the Spurs' way of doing things, who didn't need the spotlight to stay locked in, who actually understood, not just said in interviews, but understood that winning is what matters, and the role you play is simply the vehicle that gets you there. He saw a piece of himself. Across his career, the Spurs won 71.2% of the regular season games Ginobili played in, the best winning percentage in NBA history among players with at least 1,000 games played. That number wasn't really about individual stats. It reflected something that doesn't show up in a scouting report, something that can't be measured before a single training camp begins. It can only be passed down person to person. And that's really what this whole story is about. The Spurs have pulled this off before, across multiple different eras, with completely different types of players. They found Tony Parker at 28, they found Kawhi Leonard at 15, they stashed Manu Ginobili away at pick 57 and waited 3 patient years.
They saw something in Stephon Castle when the rest of the league only saw a 27% three-point shooter. And when Dylan Harper arrived, amid all the noise about roster fit and backcourt redundancy, they once again saw exactly what they've always seen. Not the circumstances surrounding a player, but the player himself.